Good afternoon and welcome. This is the POLITY. The POLITY is a political program that focuses on everything that is unfolding in the political firmament within the country and even beyond Nigeria. Before I introduce my special guest in the studio that will be joining me in the course of the show, it is expedient at this juncture to take you up to speed with news making headlines in the country. And we are starting with President of the Nigerian Senate, Godswill Akpabio, has emphasized the urgent need for legislative action on minimum wage bill, highlighting the crucial importance of establishing a living wage for Nigerian workers. He made this call during a retreat hosted by the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies in Abuja. Meanwhile, organized labor maintains its stand, pressing for a minimum wage of 250,000 naira, a demand originally proposed to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu by the Presidential Tripartite Committee on New National Minimum Wage. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has announced the creation of a new Ministry of Livestock Development as part of efforts towards resolving the lingering conflicts between farmers and herders across the country. The President disclosed this during the inauguration of the Presidential Committee on Livestock Reforms at the Presidential Villa on Tuesday. He said the committee, which will be chaired by the former chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Atairu Jega, working in collaboration with Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, is expected to propose recommendations aimed at fostering peaceful coexistence between herders and farmers while ensuring the security and economic well-being of all Nigerians. And now to Kaduna, where the former Kaduna State Governor, Malam Nasir El-Rufai, on Tuesday again lambasted his successor, Governor Obasani, for allegedly concocting financial figures to indict him and his administration, with claims that his administration diverted a whopping 423 billion naira. The former governor dismissed the purported financial report indicting him and his ex-commissioners, arguing that the report lacked merit and was mischievously orchestrated by Governor Obasani and his team to discredit him and his administration. El-Rufai, who spoke through his former commissioner at a press conference in Abuja, described the report made public by the Kaduna State House of Assembly on June 5, 2024, as conjuring outlandish figures in the hope of tarnishing him and his administration as corrupt, adding that the plan failed woefully as they could not establish any iota of graft in the end. And now moving off to AFCC versus Emefiele. An assistant manager with Zenith Bank PLC, Mrs. Ifeoma Ogbonnaya, has narrated how Mr. Godwin Emefiele, the former governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, moved funds to his wife, Mrs. Margaret Emefiele. Ogbonnaya told an Ikeja Special Offences Court on Tuesday how Emefiele used the bank to move multi-million naira to his wife. Godwin Emefiele is standing trial over abuse of office and alleged $4.5 billion, as well as 2.8 billion naira fraud while in office. Ogbonnaya, the fifth prosecution witness, was laid in evidence by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission counsel, Mr. Rotimi Oyedepo. She told the court how Emefiele used Zenith Bank to transfer millions of naira in tranches to his wife through various companies. Ogbonnaya said the companies that received the cash flow were Armstrong Resources and Solution, Limelight Dimensional Services Limited, Omic Support Services Limited, and Mango Farm. Limelight manages the facilities of CBN located at Alakija, and all transactions pertaining to power and fixing things that are not working were always done by the vendors, she said. The witness, who also doubles as a business relations manager, joined the bank in 2006. Ogbonnaya said she never had direct dealings with the ex-CBN governor, but received instructions from his wife to transfer cash from CBN into their private companies through Zenith Bank accounts. And that's the news roundup. My name is Maucauley, Hunohashi. We're taking a breather, but when we come back, I'll introduce my two guests who will be joining me in the studio. Please stay with us. You're welcome back, and if you're just joining us, this is the POLITY, and my name is Maucauley Hunohashi. Our telephone number will soon be displayed on the screen in the course of the show, so that you can also call to be a part of the show. Joining me in the studio from my far right is Maxwell Eseigbe. Maxwell Eseigbe is a lecturer with the International Institute of Journalists, and he's a public affairs commentator and a veteran in the pen profession. Maxwell, you are welcome to the POLITY.
Very, very privileged to be in the KAFTAN TV today.
Okay, and beside me is a regular face on KAFTAN TV studios, and his name is Mr. John Okoro. John Okoro is a media personality. John, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the POLITY.
Thank you very much, Maucauley, and thank you out there for being part of the program.
Gentlemen, there are so many trending stories that have headlined our news, beginning from Monday. But topmost, I must say, from my own perspective, is the new ministry that is being created by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Yesterday, he did announce that there's going to be a new ministry that will be called Ministry of Livestock Development. How did you receive the news, Maxwell?
Yeah, it's a good development, to be honest with you, Maucauley. But the only things I think is some of those ideas initiated by the president to the president that will be the actual man that will heading the ministry. I hope it will be able to give him free hand to be able to do the job effectively and efficiently well. Why do I say so? Because so many ministries actually have been established several years back and nothing to show for it. For instance, the issue of stock market exchange or something like that, or price control, I beg your pardon, has been set up several years back. With the issue of hardship that many Nigerians are going through today. Yes, it's not a new thing to most Nigerians, but I expect that the price control board was established several years back to curtail, to reduce the tension of most Nigerians, what they are going through, and nothing said to have ratified such a situation. I hope this the ministry that they have just established will not be like that.
John Okoro, this decision by Mr. President is coming exactly 10 months after he gave approval for the establishment of a presidential committee to come up with recommendations that will, to nip in the bud the lingering farmers-herders clashes and also bolster livestock production in the country. How did you receive the news of the creation of this new ministry?
Thank you very much once again, Maucauley. Personally, I was taken aback when I heard it yesterday. I followed it, that there will be a new ministry to be created, to be named the Ministry of Livestock Development. And they say that the aim of that ministry will be to nip in the bud the lingering farmer-herder clashes that have devastated the nation for so many years now, which may have even defied solution, and therefore that this ministry seems to be, or seems like the silver bullet that has the ability to solve the problem, or the panacea to solving this age-long menace, if I call it, because the farmer-herder clash, it has killed a lot of people across the country. You've seen a lot of the present food insecurity that we are currently experiencing in Nigeria is also linked to the problem of the farmer-herder clashes across the country. So, but personally, I do not see the establishment of this ministry as the silver bullet that will solve the problem. I don't say it's such. Rather, if you must maybe put up something that may speak to that particular problem, you could do so within the Ministry of Agriculture, because we're also talking about a crunch time in the history of Nigeria, where the economy is down there, where government is also complaining about lack of revenue, where you have about 10 trillion budget deficit, where even across the states, civil servants are not paid their salaries, they are owed arrears over the months. And so where would the government get the money to set up the bureaucracy of this particular ministry as being proposed or has been announced? And again, we also know that the federal government doesn't own lands. Lands belong to states. So how are they going to work this out? I don't know, because we are not seeing the details. But for me, that is not the panacea to solving that problem, the farmer header issue. Now,
Maxwell, he talked about crunch time. I quite agree with him that Nigeria is at a crunch time because we're facing so many myriads of macroeconomic challenges. In that report that was led by the committee that was led by the national chairman of the All Progressive Congress, former governor of Kano State, Abdullah Ganduje, the recommendations were 21, which includes the establishment of a new ministry that will be called Ministry of Livestock Development. Why are they silent on other 20 recommendations? Because Nigerians are not hearing about other recommendations.
Yes.
There's so much focus on the ministry.
What I actually wanted to hear from the president and those in position of authority, I always put them like that, is to make sure that farmers are given the enabling environment to be able to farm and do their job well. For an example, the issue of security has been hampering the farmers. 3 years ago or 2 years ago, I stand to be corrected, 47 farmers were killed, I think in Kano or Zamfara or something, by these security terrible people. So I expect the government should find out what should be done for the security before the farmers can be able to do their job well. These are some of these challenges that are not enabling farmers to do their job well. If the issue of security is perfectly solved, the farmers can go to the farm and be able to farm the time and whatever and be able to give us food to eat. But so the issue is establishing a ministry that will take charge of livestock and whatever is not the issue. If you do a vox pop outside, most Nigerians will tell you that is not the issue. The issue is give the farmers enabling environment to be able to farm and do their job well. If the security is solved, then the issue of farmers will be able to find their route and be able to plant whatever they want to plant for most Nigerians to eat. This is the way I look at it.
Now, John, in 2019, President Muhammadu Buhari approved the Ruga Initiative, which, left in its wake so much tension, so much pushback, so much reactions against the Ruga Initiative. And the idea was that it was believed that it was going to bring significant improvement in symbiotic relationship between farmers and hunters, and it did not happen. Do you see this one going the same?
Exactly. You see, the fact remains that rather than playing the ostrich as a people, as a government, we should be able to go straight to the situation and speak to it directly, and then look at the issues and then find out the right way to go. Because first of all, you have to ask yourself, actually, what's even bringing up this problem of the farmer and it's not peculiar to Nigeria. It's a thing that happens even across the world, where you still have people who practice pastoralism, who take their herd of animals from place to place to feed. You see these things happen because both the herders and even the farmers are also practicing agriculture. They are all, engaged in one form of agriculture or another, because even livestock farming, you understand, or breeding, livestock breeding is also part of agriculture. So they are all agriculturists in different ways, and they all depend on the land to feed their animals and also to plant the crop. They depend on the land. Now, as the society evolves, you have more population, you have more development. So that space that the farmers use to plant their crops and the herders use to feed, to graze their animals, will begin to shrink because of development. So at that point, what do you now do? That's where the problem lies. So the issue of Ruga, coming back to your question, you know, the perception was that the federal government was going to appropriate land from states and then give it to herders to use. So most of the resistance against Ruga was on the issue of appropriating land from people. That was the fear.
Yeah.
You know, and there were other dimensions that followed, but the fear was that government was going to appropriate land from people's land, and then give it to the herders. And the argument was that commercial breeding of animals is a business. It's a business. And therefore, anyone who is involved in commercial breeding of animals or in livestock farming should be able to invest in ranching, because like I said earlier, the land is shrinking. You have issues, you know, you have issues of ecology, where, you know, development comes and the land, that same land that everybody is using, the same land that we are using to build our houses, the same land that we are using to build roads and everything. So the land is shrinking, and therefore people who are involved in this kind of venture should be able to invest money in their businesses and then maybe get some piece of land somewhere and then build ranches to restrain the animals.
Now, John, let's take a look at the north. The north, drought and desertification in the north have forced pastoralists down south, you know, and to seek grazing lands there. So, and leading to competition, it leads to competition over resources with resultant clashes and loss of lives. Don't you think this is a solution?
Well, the issue is that we don't even know what is the mission statement of the ministry, what it's going to do.
Okay, yeah.
Yes,
at the moment. We don't even know what it's going to be. Because we are, you know, because, you know, when you see things happening, there's what they call educated guess. There are scenarios. You can actually say, okay, maybe in this scenario, this is what the ministry can do.
Theorize around
what is going to happen. In this instance, we are still trying to find out, because we heard in the statement of the president yesterday that the federal government will buy land from the states. So are you going to buy land and then lend it or loan it to the business people, to the herders or to the farmers? So I don't know what that is going to be. We don't know whether the government is going to buy land, because I also know that in some states, for example, that the governors of some states have actually, you know, appropriated some hectares of land, you know, and they want to donate this land to herders, so that they can actually bring their herds into that land and keep the animals within the perimeter of that of this particular grazing area. And then whatever they want to do inside that area, they have to do it, whether it is grazing, whether it is the feeding, or whatever it is. I think some states are doing it. Whether it's the same thing that the federal government wants to do with this ministry, we don't know yet. But I think
some people have taken it this way that, well, I'm not trying to castigate. I'm not trying to overrule the statement of the president. It's a good statement, like I said earlier on. But some people are saying it could be a policy statement. You know, policy statements, when it's emanated, it takes some time before it's being implemented. Yeah. But then the issue of this particular ministry they are trying to set up, maybe it could be one of the areas, avenues to reduce the crisis between the herdsmen and the farmers and whatever they are doing. But let's keep our fingers crossed and be able to see what Professor Terry Ujega will be able to do in that ministry, and be able to, because I know before that ministry has been set up, they must have given him some guidelines to enable him to operate so that that thing could succeed. But let's keep our fingers crossed and be able to see what will happen at the end of the day.
Now let me come to John. John, Nigeria is a potpourri of complex societies that, you know, we are clubbed together since 1914. And so many sections of the country view such initiatives with suspicion and so much cynicism. And I know the word livestock is very, very generic.
Yes.
And it involves not only cattle, it involves piggery.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Agric.
Even agric.
Yes.
But why is there so much fear and apprehension?
Yes, the fear and apprehension actually, have their roots from what we have experienced in the country. Remember, in the past few years, these clashes. At the time, it was even seen as a kind of maybe another group trying to dominate others. I don't know whether you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That was the perception that some other groups were also using the pretext of animal breeding to dominate other people, and that could be exemplified in the different killings across different parts of the country that were attributed to herdsmen. So because of that, people were saying, okay, we don't want to have anything to do with grazing. Because the grazing might also come with violence.
Yes.
It might also leave in its wake, blood and tears.
Yes.
And therefore, that those who are into grazing should find a way and then sort themselves out. But they people not come to our own community to graze or graze within our own farmland because of what we have seen, because of the destruction of our plants, and because of also the blood and tears that come in its wake. And therefore, so that's where this particular thing comes from in terms of fear, because we've lived together in this country for a long time.
Yes.
All the animals, mostly the cattle that people eat in the south, they come from the north.
From the north.
Even in the days when the Nigerian Railway Corporation was very, very active in those days, if you lived like I did along the railway line, you will see every single day, you will see a whole cattle train passing from, we used to call it Port Harcourt Kano. That's from Kano to Port Harcourt, or vice versa, bringing this thing, down to the south. And even within the southern areas, you will see cattle markets. People who needed these cattle would go to these markets, and who were the ones that sold the cattle? The breeders themselves. The breeders sold the cattle, and they were not from these areas. They came from the north, many of them.
Yeah.
So there were no issues. There were no issues until these economic problems started coming in terms of the shrinking of the resources.
Yes.
Because if you look at, like in the days where you had a grazing route, we started from in the north and then all the way down to maybe towards Lokoja. During the dry season, as you mentioned earlier, when the savanna grassland of the central Nigeria and then the semi-Saharan area of far north, when they are very dry, naturally the pastoralists move towards the great rivers, the basins of the river Benue and that of the river Niger. They move towards there where they have access to water and also have access to green grass to graze their cattle. However, during that era, we didn't have issues, but somehow, somewhere, something now went wrong, and the thing now became violent, and everybody became afraid. That's why people have been saying anything that has to do with cattle grazing, whether it is Ruga, whether it is whatever, let those who are involved in the business invest in their businesses, appropriate lands for yourself, and then create ranches, and then do your business there. And it could actually be a whole value chain of everything, including abattoir, including the issue of even the manufacture of cheese, manufacture of milk, and so many other things that could come out as the added value to animal farming.
Well, because of the draconian consequences that these things have caused, remember the former governor of Ondo State, late Rotimi Akeredolu, banned these people from the states and said they should no longer. But along the line, the federal government was able to intervene. That was during Buhari's regime. And then suddenly, we're beginning to see some crises have been emanating from this. Like he has rightly pointed out, that there is nothing wrong, doing grazing in all the states. But the draconian, the consequences, the negative effects that this thing has been causing made people to stand firm and say, no, And most people, you go to some areas,
we have a guest that's joining us. We have a caller. Good afternoon, this is the POLITY.
Good afternoon, my name is Mr. Benson.
Mr. what? Mr. Benson. Oh, Festus. Okay, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Maucauley, Lagos.
Okay, Lagos. Go ahead with your comment.
Okay. Do you remember when we have Rangers football club of Nigeria?
Turn down the volume of your television.
Okay.
Thank you, Festus. Go ahead.
When we have Rangers football club,
Yes, in Kaduna.
remember?
In Kaduna.
Ranchers Bees.
Ranchers
What
Bees.
happened to that rancher? What happened to the ranch? What happened to it? They don't use it again.
No, they don't use it again. There's a ranch in Kaduna owned by Senator Arua.
Because if there's a club called Rangers Club.
Yes, there was a club.
Yes.
This is there. So why they cannot continue with those ranch in there? Why are they coming south every time? They kill it at Tinubu, they kill at what do you call it, Nsuka every time. After very well. It's not good. If they want to provide ranchers for them, let them provide ranchers for them.
That's why that is why the president wants to. Okay, go ahead.
It's not punishment to the animal. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your call. You heard him. He said, why are they... he talked about the ranch in Kaduna.
Yeah.
The ranch in Kaduna was owned by a senator who is now of blessed memory,
Yes.
Ahmed Arua.
Arua.
And he was rearing horses. It wasn't for cattle.
Okay.
It was horses. And then the man had passion for football. So he named his football club as Ranchers Bees of Kaduna.
I remember several years
Go ahead
back.
on your
Yes. Some of these issues is that the farmers complain bitterly that most of these herdsmen, the cattle rearers, the cattle or whatever they call them, they eat the crops they planted along the line, and they create unnecessary problems, challenges for most of these farmers. So I think this ministry that is being established now, I think I hope they'll be able to take a very closer look and be able to solve this issue of challenges that these farmers are complaining about.
Now, John, do you agree with him?
Yes, my earlier opinion on the ministry still remains. For you to solve the problem, you have to go beyond just establishing ministries.
Yes.
Rather, you have to tackle the problem, and these problems are actually embedded in states. You have to work closely with the state governments to solve these problems. And for me, the best solution to this, whereby some states like Benue State, with their banning of open grazing, and not just only in Benue State, in so many parts of the country, there has been this ban, legislative ban using the law.
Ondo State is one of them.
Exactly, to ban open grazing. But the issue is that even with those bans across the country, have we seen open grazing stopped? We have not seen it stopped across the country. People are still doing open grazing, even in those states. Even in fact, the different task forces set across different states to actually maybe enforce the anti-open grazing laws. They are actually having their hands full of different activities. I mean, sometimes some of them even have clashes, and then some people are even killed. I remember even in Benue State, as soon as that law was established, I think it was signed maybe late 2017. Then in January of 2018, there was this massacre. That was so. One of the worst that we have recorded in this country that happened in Benue, and and that's how it's been going on. Even like somebody mentioned what happened in Soka. That's Okpa Binimbo at the time that the governor had to go to that place and wept. And not even too long ago, there was also a repeat of that, but it didn't make much headline. So the issue there is, the farmers, the headers, are also farmers. They are engaged in livestock farming. It's an agricultural exercise. It's an enterprise in agriculture, and it is a multi-billion-dollar. Business. It's a multi-billion-dollar business that anyone who invests in it. And again, we must also draw the thin line between traditional pastoralism and commercial cattle breeding, because that's why we are mixing it up. Because we know that in Nigeria you have traditional pastoralism. However, traditional pastoralism is actually giving way to commercial breeding. And most of the cattle here we see around, even in the city of Abuja, moving from place to place, are actually owned by business people. Yes. Most of the traditional pastoralists have actually abandoned that business, and because you know, as the world evolves, people are looking for ways to survive. So they are even doing businesses now. You understand? So because it is a business, it is a business, and because it's a business, it must be treated like a business. So if government is going to come into it at the federal level, in the name of, through the ministry and all the recommendations made, the best option will always be, let people restrain their livestock within
their domain,
a certain perimeter, which we call ranches, and let them do everything there. That is how it is done across the world. If you go to places like the Netherlands, go to places like Australia, we don't even do half of what they are doing in terms of livestock agriculture. Yes. We are not even doing what Australia is doing in terms of livestock agriculture. But everything is organized. Everything is streamlined in such a way that nobody is hurt. Nobody is going to be killed. Because like Maxwell mentioned earlier on, you know, you see, even as we speak now, people are afraid to go to even plant anything. Yes. Because as soon as you put these things on the ground and they start to come up, before you know it, these cattle will come and eat them all. It's happening even here in the FCT. In the neighboring states, to the east of the FCT, you have Nasarawa State. To the west, you have Niger State. To the south, you have Kogi State. You know, even to the north and to the northwest, you still have Niger and Kaduna State, all surrounding the FCT. Go to these places, the issues are there. The issues are there. They are there. In fact, at the time, some years ago, because I also farm. I farm. Personally, I farm. I have farm. Personally, I do. You understand?
Now, John, before I come to Maxwell, let me ask you this question. There has been so many attempts, you know, to make this farming, this cattle breeding sedentary, you know, because it is business. For them to settle in one place by creating ranches, all those attempts have failed. Now, the pastoralists you talked about, the traditional ones you talked about, have this sentimental attachment to what they call an age-long tradition that has predated civilization, and they don't want to be extricated from their age-long tradition because they will certainly resist it. What do you think can be done?
And I respect that. You know, tradition is what makes the people what they are. Is the legacy that the people will always hold on to. That tradition, we understand that. But I am saying, but as we speak today in Nigeria, there is a thin line between traditional pastoralism and then commercial cattle breeding. There's a thin line. It's a very thin line. And also saying that most of the cattle herd we see within the city of Abuja and elsewhere, they are not actually traditional pastoralists, they're actually commercial breeders. Do you understand?
Yes.
And because of that, you must invest in your business. Because the fear there is, okay, you know, for example, if you go to buy a cow now, you are talking about $1 million plus. Currently now, if you are not holding up to $1 million, you cannot buy a cow.
That's true.
You can't buy a cow.
Very correct.
Now, but the issue is that, okay, you want to feed this cow for free and maximize the profit. That's how it means. You want to go to somebody's farm and feed the cows for free. You want to come to the streets of Abuja and then eat the flowers,
the crops planted
for free. Then you sell the cow at the rate of 1 million, 1.5 million, and without any investment.
Without any investment, so government is not making any money.
You understand? So there's a need for us to interrogate this. You understand?
Yes.
So because it's a business. Currently now, you know, I just came not long ago. We came from a kind of a burial. I will know how much we spent to buy a cow, one single cow. You understand? I'm talking about over ₦1 million for a cow. You understand? But so when you are making a lot of money, and this is on daily basis, I don't have the statistics, but what Nigerians spend, either in buying live cows or even buying a kilo of meat and whatever. We are talking about billions over a period of time. It's a no, I'm not using Naira, it's a multi-billion-dollar business.
Yes.
So those who are involved in, if people, well, in the days of old, even here in the city of Abuja, there were a lot of traditional pastoralists who were around here, you know, and you know that they're not concerned about money. They just want to move their cattle from point to point, and they move seasonally.
Yeah.
At the season, they're here, and that season, they're there. The next season, they return to the soul cycle. You understand? But these days, it's no more like that. And that's how if you say, oh, I want to buy this, they don't need, before they say to you, it's very, very difficult. If you want to buy, you have to go to a kind of ranch where some people had actually purchased, then grew them, and they're now reselling them.
Yes.
But for the traditionalists who are the pastoralists themselves, you can hardly see them selling their cattle then, because that is their family heritage. Yeah. So they transfer from son to son, and then on they go with it. You understand? But however, in the modern time that we live in, there's not a thin line between that practice and then commercialization.
Okay. Yes. In fact, you set the ball rolling for the next question for Maxwell. He talked about thin line that separates commercial breeding of cattle and the traditional pastoralists.
Yes.
That brings me to remembrance of Babame Mongoro. We call him popularly known as Babame Mongoro. That's Admiral Murtala Inyako. One time, governor of Adamawa State. He breeds cattle, and they are bulls. I've listened to the interview he granted, some time ago, where he did say that you cannot compare the pastoral cattle that move, for instance, from Kebbi to Ebonyi State, exposed to the vagaries of the weather. You can't compare those ones, which is on. The meat are not the same.
Yes.
The milk is not the same. The skin is not the same. Even the hide.
Yes.
The pomo is not the same. Why is it difficult for that education to start from within themselves?
Yeah. Let's quickly look at one of the international principles of professionality in the practice of journalism profession, objective reality. We are talking about objective reality in this sense.
Yes.
Why? Because if you look at the issue of this Inyako that you talked about, that time he was able to have a sense of belonging, to be precise, ability to maintain, ability to be able to look at, he was the only one taking care of all this, his sheep that time. But today, you see the young people who does not even know anything. The real people are out there. They are not taking the cognizance of what is happening within their domain. They are sending all these small boys who go about trying to eat up the crops of these farmers that can yield good crops for you and I to eat. So this is why I believe in this Inyako issue, that he knows what he's doing. He was able to contain himself. He's an objective man in the sense that he has the number of cattle he would be able to cater for, and he controls them. He knows how to maintain them. He knows the kind of animals that will breed from it. Not now that these other cows are just eating anyhow. So if we can emulate the idea initiated by Murtala Inyako that time, I think it will be better. It will be better, honestly.
Now, John, you earlier alluded to the fact that most of these cattle, that particularly the ones that that graze within cities, for instance, these are ugly spectacle within Abuja, are owned by so-called big men.
Yes, like
and
I said earlier.
This so-called big men, you also attributed to that. These so-called big men travel abroad. They see the aesthetics abroad. They enjoy good life there. Why is it difficult for them to just wake up in the morning and implement this thing? Then you can answer that.
Yeah, that is it. That is the point I am still making. That's the point I am still making. That as it is today, I will keep on hammering on it. I respect tradition. The people who rear cattle as a tradition, we respect them. And we also know that today, because of certain levels of development, that most of the traditional pastoralists are not even seen within the city radius. You can't see them within the radius. They are far away. and they still maintain. But even those who still practice the traditional cattle breeding or traditional pastoralism, they are also thinning out. They are thinning out currently now. Most of them are actually living that particular tradition, and they are now embracing modernity in different ways. You understand? Some of them are even now have chosen to go to school. Some of them have chosen to do other things. Some of them have even chosen to do other kind of businesses that might even give them more maybe standing in the society. But a majority of the people that we see today are actually into commercial cattle breeding. That's the fact. The ones we see within the city and its environs, not just here in Abuja, but across different parts of the country, these ones are involved in commercial breeding. And many of them are also owned by people of affluence in society. They hire these young men and then say, take this in, go and graze anywhere you can see, go and let them go and drink water anywhere they can see, wherever. Just take them out there, and then once the profits of selling this cattle come, those guys who even rear the cattle are even giving peanuts. The main bulk of the money, goes to the owners themselves. So, but at the end of the day, when issues come up, it could still be attributed. That is the headers are the ones causing the problem. But we know where these problems lie. You know, in the real sense of it, that it is about is an economic battle. What is happening? The farmer header clashes happening in Nigeria today is an economic battle. It's a war. The people who own the cattle, they want to feed the cattle for free by all means, even if it means killing people, so that they can maximize the profit. Why the farmers want to farm? And some of these farmers are actually subsistence farmers.
You're talking about that conflict, and in 2021 alone, according to an Associated Press report, based on the latest data from the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project, the report says at least 2,600 deaths were recorded in 2021 alone in Nigeria's north central and northwestern region. Yeah.
In addition to what he has just said, if you look at these big men, when they travel outside this country, yes, they know the right thing to be done, but they will never do it.
Why is this so?
Okay, well, let me ask one question now from this discussion.
Yes.
Why is it that most of these big men, they are here, they don't obey the simple rules and regulations, but the moment they get to other countries of the world, they respect the rules and regulations? Why is it like that? It should not be so.
Those societies are functional.
If those societies are not put in order, you and I will not be able to travel to that country. And this is why you should be able to obey your own country here. I'll give you an example.
Go ahead.
Okay, for example, the issue of you get to where there's light on the traffic. You see most of these bourgeois, the compradors and whatever, they beat the line, they beat the light, and people will be keen up. But when they are outside this country, they obey the simple rules and regulations. Why is it so? Why is it so?
Okay.
It's the same thing we are talking about, these herdsmen and whatever. They should be able to obey the simple rules and regulations. You don't graze anywhere.
We have laid so much emphasis, John, on cattle and their the misbehavior of their shepherds.
Yes.
Now, it is not. We know that in this country, it's not only cattle that constitute that. Okay, let's take this caller. Hello, good afternoon. This is the POLITY.
Hello, good day, sir.
Good day. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Okay, I'm Okoro Michael.
Okoro Michael, go ahead with your contribution. From where?
Okay, from Enugu State.
Enugu State. Go ahead, please, sir.
Okay, please, this short is the headline you guys right now is Headers Farmers Clash.
Yes.
But in anywhere in Nigeria, have you seen anywhere in Nigeria farmers kill headers? I think the headline is supposed to be headers killing farmers.
Okay, thank you for that.
But what we are seeing, see what happened in Benue? Huh?
Yes.
So I think you guys have to change the headline so that federal government will know what we are shouting. Everybody is shouting about the new ministry Tinubu wants to implement now. want to give Nigeria this top ministry. Why? For what reason? If you want to do that, let me create a ministry of buying and selling. You know, let me create a ministry of buying and selling. That is my own. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Okoro. Okoro is talking about additional ministry, the Ministry of Buying and Selling. I was asking you, it's not only cattle that constitute these, ugly spectacle or menace. Nigeria is a country of stray animals. You see sheep everywhere, even dogs. Dogs are left. Somebody will own a dog and leave the dog to stray.
Yes.
Fend for itself. And even chicken. You see chicken crossing highways and things like that. Why is it? Why are we like this?
It's just a lack of respect, because all this you mentioned, there are laws guiding them. Even if you're a dog owner, there are laws on how you can restrain and treat your dog. That's why in many parts of the world, those dogs that don't have owners, that stray, they call them pariah dogs.
Pariah dogs,
and
yes.
they are very dangerous. Because if maybe they bite someone, you don't know who to hold.
Yeah.
Because as a dog owner, you're supposed to have your veterinary card, for the
taking them to the hospital.
Them to the veterinary clinic.
It's a domestic animal.
Yes. So that
let's take this caller, John.
Okay.
Good afternoon. You're welcome to the POLITY.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Your name, please, and where you're calling from?
You are speaking with Mr. Joy Irati.
Okay, Irati.
From Taraba State.
Taraba, go ahead. Go ahead, please, with your comment.
This discussion is very important, and it's an important issue.
Thank you so much.
And I want to back what the other person, apart from Mr. John.
Okay.
The other person.
All right.
He said so. What happened now? President, what I'm trying to say is, some individuals, those that have money, they use this harder also. They will use the bargain to go and destroy a certain position that they like, where they want to send away all those people from those areas so that they will occupy the space. They still using the others. So instead that they will have law banning these people, they cannot bring such people to that community and they will live peacefully. So please, I'm begging that if government can take decision of this one, let them just open the ranches or as they say, or whatever. But issue of this livestock, we don't know how it will take a position in these issues, because you cannot solve the problem of a farmer and header, because normally it's header that normally kills the farmer.
Okay.
You can see.
We have lost the caller. He has made a very valid comment. We have another caller. Good afternoon. You're welcome to the POLITY.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Your name and where are you calling from?
Samuel calling from Taraba.
Okay, go ahead, Samuel.
Taraba.
Go ahead, Samuel.
I think what is there is that the grazers, they value their animals.
Yes.
As they value their animals, they should take better care of it.
Okay.
Not to be leaving it loose to go into people's farms or compound houses. The cows, they really do a lot of destruction. In fact, it's like they are not of much value to the owner.
Okay.
Yeah. So if it is something of that great value, they should take better care of it.
Okay.
So what is suggested is a very good way of keeping them value their animals very well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Samuel. You're welcome from Taraba State. You heard what he said. You want to react to that?
Okay, from Samuel.
From Samuel in Taraba.
Exactly, yes. He used the active word there,
yes.
value. And logically, yes, if you value your herd, the best thing to do is to put them in a place where you know that they are going to be very, very safe and be well fed. Just like what you said about Murtala Nyako, that he said that his breed of cattle, they are held there and they have more beef compared to the ones who are moving around.
John, your thoughts? Good afternoon. This is the POLITY.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Your name, sir, and where are you calling from?
My name is Yusuf Usman from Bombay.
Okay, go ahead with your comments, sir.
Yes, my own takeoff in this matter is we have these headers and farmers clashes which occur as a result of terrorists occupying most of our forests in Nigeria. Like Sambisa forest now.
Okay.
It's a very vast and big forest which can be used by farmers to go and locate themselves. They can even most of the animals that are in part of the northern part of it can be go there and rearing without interfering with anybody affairs. And even in most of the Zamfara and the rest, they have forests which are being occupied by terrorists. The government have to come in and fire them, clear the entire those places, and push those people inside. They can't move anywhere.
Okay.
Why Boko Haram occupy Sambisa? Because there are so many things inside. It's a very fertile land there. Then it is better for them, government, to go and clear the terrorists that are occupying those places, so that Fulani men that lands where they can graze their animals, they can go there and do it without even hindering. But for government to say that the Fulani man that should go and keep their animal like a white man, you look at what the white man have in their area. When they have animals, they have big space, grasses around them that give them around to move. You can see them with horse pushing their cows in their forest. They're the same like what we are doing in Nigeria, but their own is different because they don't live the way we are living. But absolutely, there is need for the government to fight criminal and push them out of their forest, so that Fulani can have space where they can go and rear the animals. Thank you.
Thank you, Yusuf from Gombe. Gombe is in the northeast region of this country. Yusuf, that call is so much familiar with that axis. He talked about how vast and fertile, and with lots of bodies of water at Sambisa, which can be cleared for others. He did also mention something that very instructive. And when he was talking, I was trying to, the image that was conjured in my mind was Texas. You know, they are cattle breeders, but they use horses to rear their cattle. They don't trek on foot like ours here. That's what he's talking about. He said we cannot be like the white man. Do you agree with him, John?
Well, everyone has his or her opinion. And Yusuf, I'm right?
Yes.
He has the right to air his views over a national discourse such as this. But we must also look at other prevailing circumstances that may have surrounded this particular discourse, especially when it comes to the lives of people, when it comes to the number of people who have been killed as a result of these clashes between farmers and herders. And like we all say, farmers and herders, they are not operating in different firmaments. They are actually people who are also in the same profession. That is, they are all agriculturists, and they all depend on the land, to take care of whatever they do. But because of development, because of population explosion, the land is shrinking. We also have issues, with the global warming, climate change and everything that has also brought about drought across many places, and people are moving from place to place looking for where the animals could survive. And in Nigeria, during the dry season, the regular place you see herders has always been along the river basins, like the basins of the River Benue and Niger. That's why if you look at the areas where you have the hotspots of these clashes, you will see around the Benue Basin, all the way down to the Niger Basin, and it's all about survival. However, if the rearing is about business, if it's about profit maximization, there should be some kind of investment into it. That is my argument. I've never been against traditional pastoralism. It is a tradition. But I have always said that because in the days past, I even had very good friends who were traditional pastoralists. They used to come at a time, they settle in a place, and then development hadn't come this way. So even here in Abuja, some of the places that these people I'm talking about grazed about 30 years ago, those places have been built up now by development. So if they come there, they cannot graze anymore there. So either they go further into the bush to graze, or we'll talk about ranching. But these days, nobody wants to go further into the bush to graze. Everybody is grazing within the city simply because the people who are also going to buy the cows will not want to go inside the bush far to go and buy these cows. So even the grazers are also within the cities, where they graze and do all these things. So, but because it is, my own argument is because it is profit oriented. You must invest in your business in order to make your profit.
No, let me ask you. He has been hammering on the fact that it is business. Which means government has limitation as to what it should do.
Yes.
What would government do as an enabler?
Yes, the government is a way of trying to. This ministry they've just established, it's a very good thing to be, like we said earlier on, before the program, even before the program started, that is a way of further cementing the relationship between the herders and the farmers, between the north and the south. But the draconian consequences, which I said earlier on, is the issue of killing, is the issue of crisis emanating between the herders and the farmers that is causing problem. And then eating the crops of these farmers being planted for you and I to eat as food. These are some of the things, and I also holistically believe that the ministry that just the established now by the presidency will be able to tackle this issue and be able to find out the lasting solution, because there is a great advantage of this thing, but because of the consequences, because of the negative effects that are emanating, that is what is causing problem between these two associations.
Well, viewers, we've been discussing President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's decision to establish a new ministry called Ministry of Livestock Development. Mr. Maxwell here seems to be supporting the idea. John seems to be not in tune with the idea, or rather he's averse to the idea of establishing that ministry, and he has adduced so many reasons. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll take a look at the Oresenyo report that was presented to President Goodluck Jonathan in 2012. It was a 800-page recommendation. The creation of this new ministry was not one of the recommendations. Rather, the recommendation was for the mergers of ministries, predecessors and departments, to cut the cost of governance in Nigeria. But that will be after the short break. Please stay with us.
In a bid to create growth avenue for the economy, President Bola Tinubu officially launched the Presidential Committee on Implementation of Livestock Reforms at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. This initiative aims to remove barriers to agricultural productivity and unlock new opportunities for farmers, herders, processors, and distributors.
The far-reaching recommendations in their report informed our decision to constitute and inaugurate this Presidential Committee on the Implementation of Livestock Reforms and seize a great opportunity to better the lives of our people rather than the conflict-promoted agenda. It is our renewed hope, and I believe that hope is here.
President Tinubu appointed Professor Atahiru Jega as co-chairman of the committee, emphasizing the need for non-partisan collaboration. The president also announced plans for a new Ministry of Livestock Development to further support this sector, while he highlighted the potential of the dairy industry and cold chain logistics to provide substantial economic advantages.
At this junction, I will appeal to remove every taint of partisan politics from it. I assume the chairmanship of the committee as the president, and appoint Professor Otairo Jega as my deputy or co-chair, and as Dr. Gaduje, we say thank you, just remove yourself, so that any taint of politics in this environment will be erased completely. This is not about politics. This is about opportunity. This is about our nation. This presents a unique opportunity also to delineate and establish a separate ministry called the Ministry of Livestock Development.
The initiative also received commendation from the APC National Chairman, Dr. Abdullahi Ganduje, for his efforts in assembling a team of experts to drive the reforms.
We forward to you our congratulations for your re-election as chairman of ECOWAS. We wish you a successful tenure again.
The committee includes experts from various sectors and will focus on legal, technological, and financial measures to support the reforms. These reforms are expected to boost agricultural productivity, enhance opportunities, and stimulate growth.
Welcome back. You're still on to the POLITY, and our telephone line is on your screen so that you can continue to call and participate so that you can make the program conversational. Gentlemen, in 2011, President Goodluck Jonathan, the then president, inaugurated a presidential committee headed by, for one-time head of service, Stephen Oronshanye, to take a look at reformation of government agencies, with a view to streamlining or reducing the cost of governance. And part of the 800-page recommendation was merger of some ministries and departments, even the scrapping of some, because in the report, the statutory agencies were 263, and then Orange report recommended the reduction to 161, and the scrapping of 38 agencies, and then the merger of 52. Moving forward, and on Monday, February this year, our current president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, precisely on the 26th of February, directed the implementation of the Stephen Oronshanye report. It was not implemented. Yesterday, Nigerians woke up to the news, of the announcement of a new ministry. We're talking of cost of governance, cutting down the cost of governance, and now we're adding, creating another ministry. Now, let me ask you. Let me start with John Okoro. The bureaucracy, how are we going to fund the bureaucracy that will form that ministry? Now that Nigeria is even in a quagmire, talking about macroeconomic stability of the country and volatility.
Yes, that's a very good question. The fact remains that, like I said earlier, we keep on playing the ostrich. We know the situation on ground. Today, as we speak, the cost of running government in this country is actually what is taken away. I like
that line of thought, but we have a caller. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Good afternoon. You're welcome to the POLITY. We can hear you, sir.
My name is Zakari Sambo in Cross River. I'm a vice chairman for Livestock Market.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
What should I do? I like them very good. Very good thing, because all that problem where they happen between Fulani headers and farmers, you go stop all that thing. Okay. Every state, I want to give you the idea, they would help us. Every state, when they give grazing area, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zakari. Go ahead.
Yes, I said that if you look at the way government is structured today in this country, the government bureaucracy, it is actually the concurrent costs, the concurrent expenditure, which is basically personnel cost of governance. That is what takes away everything that this country earns as a revenue. Takes it away. If you look at the current budget as it is, you find out that by the time you take away debt servicing from the budget, then what is left is for concurrent expenditure. Afterwards, there's nothing left.
There's nothing left.
That's true.
Nigeria now goes a borrowing. And we have been on this over the years. We keep on complaining about the budget deficits widening every fiscal year. And Nigerians are unanimous that there's a need for this country to reduce the cost of governance, because it is eating deep into the pockets of this country in terms of freeing funds for development.
Okay, we have a caller. Good afternoon, this is the POLITY. You're welcome, sir.
How are you?
We are fine, doing very well, sir. Your name? Where are you calling from?
What are you paying me the remaining part of the money?
What money are you talking about? I think it's a wrong.
Is it wrong?
Yeah, it's mistaken identity.
Exactly.
Go ahead, John.
All right, so I remember that even in 2015, when former President Buhari came to power, you know that he reduced the ministries. I think he brought it to about 24 ministries from more than 30 ministries that we had before he came in 2015. He reduced them. And some ministries were merged. Remember the super minister of Fashola, handling 3 ministries at the same time, just to save cost and everything. However, in 2019, when he returned to power, when he was re-elected, some of the ministries that he actually removed, he brought them back.
Yeah, he brought them back.
And created new ministries.
Hello? Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. This is the POLITY. Your name, please, and where you're calling from.
Yeah, I'm calling from Lagos. My name is Chris.
Chris from Lagos. Go ahead with your comment.
Yeah, regarding the livestock that was inaugurated by the federal government, from my own point of view, I think that's not basically the problem that we are prepared with. I think Nigeria definitely, of course, from my own observation, we tend to actually rely so much on the periphery of an issue instead of going to the root of the issue.
Okay.
This is insecurity, that has just bedeviled the country, and we should fight this from the root, and not going around the shadows of, like going from the periphery. Let us go to the root. Now you are unable to even pay, agree on the minimum wage for the Nigerian work. Here you are inaugurating or bringing up another ministry. We are talking about trying to reduce the cost of administration, and you are increasing it. For me, I think this is a sheer waste of time and increasing some kind of thing that is not even. This is not necessary in the long run. It's not necessary.
Okay.
Fight this from the roots and not from the periphery. That's my point.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, John, let me add to what you are saying.
Okay.
The question I'm going to add is along the line of your thoughts.
Okay.
Now, a recent report recommended the mergers of MDAs. Now, let me give you an example. The EFCC, ICPC, and CPCPC, in 2024 budget alone, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission presented a budget of 76.5 billion naira. The ICPC presented a budget of 14 billion naira. And then Code of Conduct Bureau presented a budget of 49 billion naira. And they are doing the same thing. They are doing the same job, basically.
Yes.
There's only a thin line of divide. That's what the original report was talking about. And that's the line of thought.
Exactly. Because even if you look at the 2012, when the original report came out, we have even created more ministries. Now, as we speak currently now, we have created more ministries and more parastatals and other government agencies. And in any nation where you have government being the highest employer of labor as it is in Nigeria, then something is wrong. Rather, it should be the other way around. In some countries, just have about 15 ministries or even 10, because government should be very light. The work of government is to create to create the laws and the enabling environment to allow the private sector to thrive. Government is not supposed to be in business. The government has no business in business. However, in today's Nigeria, it is the other way around. Government is the highest employer of labor. In fact, if these reports, or reports, is actually implemented to the fullest, you will see a lot of even serious economic crisis in this country.
Yes. Okay. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Before I get to you, Maxwell. Good afternoon, sir. You're welcome. We can hear you. Go ahead. We've lost the caller. Actually,
yeah, the MDAs, which the Steve Oronsaye recommended, I was in the service that time, and I wholeheartedly loved the way. But unfortunately, most of subsequent presidency that we'll be having, they've not been able to implement it until now. I also pray, I just pray that the present Tinubu administration will be able to implement it. What was Steve Oronsaye's report about? One, few people with enough job to do the job than just enough people given little stipends. So what he's saying that most of these associations, most of these parastatals should be trained down. Because they are almost doing the same job. So why are we wasting resources, materials, or those things that are not necessary? For an example, the issue of governors is too much. When Bill Clinton visited this country during Obasanjo's regime, I was one of those reporters, foreign reporters that covered the events. How many vehicles came with him from the international airport down to the embassy, down to where he lodged, down to international conference center, where the journalists were all there? Very few vehicles. But you see governors, you see ministers, you see all these things with long queues of vehicles. Where are these? Are they using their own money to foot the petrol or to put petrol into these vehicles? No. It's government fund, it's government money. So what are we talking about? And we are talking about queues in fuel stations and what have you. Many Nigerians are suffering. Let's be honest to ourselves. Many families cannot afford 3 square meals a day. And then their cost of governance. You see these categories of people spending a lot of money, getting a bulletproof cars and what have you. Then what are we talking about? Why can't we reduce this issue of the NDAs that Steve Oronsaye talked about? And I'm sure if those NDAs can be reduced, I'm sure most Nigerians would enjoy.
We have 47 ministers. Now, I think with the exit of Beta Edu, we have it's been reduced to 46. Now, if you create a new ministry, you have a new minister.
Yes.
We were appointed, perhaps with a minister of state.
Essay.
And they will come with essays,
PA, aids, protocols, and what have you.
I think that's the point you are driving home.
Exactly, that's the point I was making around from time. That whatever we make as a nation, as revenue, actually goes into taking care of those that who we have supposedly employed. Because the political office holders and the civil servants that are supposed to be the employees of the people. So we now spend everything we owe as a people to pay them, and we are left with nothing. That's the situation in Nigeria today. And like I said earlier, it is not the business of government to be in business. The job of government is to set the framework, the legal framework for business to thrive. That's the job of government. If you look at everywhere across the world, it is the private sector that drives the economy of any country, not government. Government is to set up the right environment.
The civil servants.
Here in this country, it is the other way around. And today, if any attempt is made to merge, because government has always been saying, okay, don't worry, even if we implement the Oronsaye report, nobody's going to lose their jobs.
Yeah.
That might not be the fact.
Because
if people do not lose their jobs, then there will be no need to even implement the report.
Implement the report.
Because the essence of implementing the report is to make sure that you have a light but very effective public service in the country. And then you can now free up funds and channel these funds to other areas where we need as an urgent development in the country. But today, everything we own, everything we earn, goes straight into recurrent expenses. They go down 20 years of budgeting, go through the process. We find out that it is just that we are doing. And all the things you are mentioning about the protocols, the logistics of the people in government, how would the money come from? It's from our pockets, it's from Nigerian taxpayers.
Now, and also, I'll use this opportunity to encourage the Nigerian Labour Congress, the Trade Union Congress, to be able to liaise with the government and be able to create houses for affordable civil servants, and then be able to make things good. For instance, you talk about the issue of removal of oil subsidy. There is no palliatives, alternatives.
Yes. Hello, good afternoon. This is the POLITY. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is the POLITY. Okay, now let me ask you, from what the president said yesterday, and then the reaction that followed from Mahmoud Jega, who is to be the chairman of
Atahiru
Jega, and Ganduje, Musa Ganduje, seems to suggest that government is ready to go the whole hog in terms of establishing this ministry. Now I'm thinking of replication at the subnational level. States that have nothing to do with cattle, other than, using it in their meals. What are they going to establish? State Ministry of Livestock Development that has to do with piggery, or is it chicken, or what's that thing that comes to mind in terms of replication at the subnational level?
Let's see the outcome of what they are going to talk about, they are going to implement, because it's still too premature to start talking for them. It has been inaugurated. The two people have been asked to take the charge of the portfolio. Let's see what we have.
What do you think?
Because it's too early now to start telling them this is what to do, this is not what to do.
All right, like the main thing here, I think when it comes to the issue of livestock, it is not the responsibility of the federal government. It's something that
you keep repeating that.
Yes, it should be, because why I say the federal government doesn't own a land. They don't own lands. Lands belong to the states.
That's why I talk about the subnational.
Yes, so the responsibility should be within the states. All the government should do is to lend them support at the federal level. But for you not to take it upon yourself to lead, I wonder how it's going to work. Because the federal government doesn't own any land in the country.
Okay, John, let's take this caller.
All right.
Good afternoon. This is the POLITY. I've lost the caller. Okay.
It's a state affair. Like someone has actually talked before. Yes, I told you earlier that there are some states who have actually, even after signing the anti-open grazing laws, they have also donated land for grazing as a grazing reserve. Where people who are interested in cattle breeding could actually go, maybe lease or whatever, and then from there. But I think the problem there is not being able. I think some of the cattle breeders don't want any form of restraint.
Yeah.
They don't want to be restrained. They want to move freely
anywhere they want to go.
The world, your own freedom stops when another person's freedom starts. So when somebody says you are actually encroaching into my farmland and you are destroying my farm, my crops, I think
yes, that is the problem.
Yeah, we have a caller. Good afternoon.
So
that's serious.
Okay,
go ahead.
So that is where I feel that the problem lies. It's about understanding the situation and go straight and tackle it. It's simple to tackle. It's complex, but you can actually unbundle the complexity.
Is it complex because Nigeria is a complex society?
It's complex. It's complex
and very sensitive.
It's complex and sensitive because in Nigeria, everything, there's ethnic undertone, there's a religious undertone, but we don't look at things straight
political
the way they
undertone.
are, political undertone. So that's why it becomes complex.
I remember about 2-3 weeks ago, a senator from Benue State presented a bill which has actually passed first reading, but there was so much reaction from some northern senators who stood out and they were so vehement about it.
Yes.
It had not even gotten to any high level, as it were, but there was so much reaction and pushback against.
You remember
the
even
bill.
when the governor Samuel Tom, the
Yes.
former governor of Benue State, when he was attacked, have you forgotten? When he was attacked during Buhari's regime, and then the from nowhere some people went to him and started attacking him because he vehemently refused to allow herdsmen to come and be doing their cows and whatever in Benue State. So there is a political undertone, there is a geographical undertone, and then there is ethnicity undertone. So people take things for granted. We just pray that this issue, this ministry established, will be able to iron out these differences and be able to allow people to do their job well. But then restrictions should be attained so that people will not just be going there and be creating problems for most people and be eating crops that can most people plant deliberately at the end of the day to provide food for you and I.
John is somehow averse to this idea of having a ministry, a separate ministry, but let me ask you, it may sound hypothetical. As technical advisor to the man in charge, Jega, what will you be advising if you're asked to advise? Now the government seems to be going the whole hog.
What I would tell him is to work with the states.
Yes.
The state governments must be carried along if this must succeed. If the age-long clashes between farmers and herders could be nipped in the bud to at least to the barest minimum, I think there's a need for the federal government. If the federal government wants to lead now, they should work with the states. You cannot succeed without working with the states because these clashes happen within the states. That's where they happen. All these problems we're talking about, they happen within different states. So you must work with the states. It's not this, even as a federal government, what are you federating? You're federating the states. If you say a federal government, what is the work of federal government? Is just a coordinating entity. The real nation, when you talk about Nigeria, you're talking about the states. That will make up Nigeria. The states that make up Nigeria.
And most importantly, visit some of these areas that you think herders will be able to migrate.
Okay, now as we wind down, let me ask you, this challenge that Nigeria is currently facing, many countries have faced them and they have surmounted those challenges. What is so difficult, which means the solutions are there, is only for our leaders to go pick it, bring it back home, domesticate it, and apply it.
Yes.
To fit into your own circumstance. What is that? What is so difficult in doing that?
Because most people find it difficult. They find it difficult because they believe that politics have overturned the whole situation.
And you have to create seminars.
Yes.
Organize seminars.
Politics, ethnicity have developed. Before you take before you move to your right, another person is taken to his right and against you. So I think this ministry is a good thing. I hope it's not just a policy statement that people will just say and whatever. So that's why we are saying that we are suggesting to the man in charge, visit some of these areas, work with the state government, and then look at the farmers, the herders, talk to them and be able to dialogue with them. What is their challenges? What is their problems? And find out how can these problems or challenges be resolved so that it can move the two parties along without any clashes, without any killing involved.
What do you think, John?
Well, this is about money, it's about profit, it's about making money. And the money involved is not a small amount of money. And therefore, the people are actually fighting to protect their interests. So now that the federal government has chosen to take the lead, it's my prayer that we bring closure to this problem, this perennial issue of farmer-herder clashes across the country. However, those who are going to be part of it shouldn't see it as another job for the boys. Rather, they should see it as a national call, and that they can only succeed when they work with the stakeholders. Because I don't know how far they have gone in having these consultations amongst stakeholders like the farmers themselves, there are associations like the Miyetti Allah and other groups across the country. Everyone must be brought to the table, and so we don't just say that I'm sitting in Abuja, I have all the answers. No, it shouldn't be so. You must come down and then work with everyone. And we hope, we pray that it comes to an end one day very, very, very soon.
Well, on that note, that's the size of our package. I want to say a very, very big thank you to Maxwell Eseigbe for finding time to join me on the POLITY. Maxwell, thank you so much.
Nice meeting you. And next time we'll be here again.
Exactly. You are always a regular caller. John, I thank you most profoundly for finding time to come to the POLITY, for joining me here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It is a pleasure.
Well, I thank our numerous viewers that called, our callers that called to make the program participatory and conversational. On behalf of my producer, Ruben Okala, and the entire production team that made the POLITY this afternoon successful, my name is Maucauley Hunohashi saying bye for now and see you next time.